Hi guys, it's Candace from Beacon Hill Books. Today I wanted to do a quick discussion video about three sort of stories I read over the winter having to do with Russian fairy tales. I found, actually, I read one a little bit earlier, but I found that there was similarities between the three. I thought maybe some people would be interested to know what the differences were. So the books I'm comparing is really the two books in the Winter Night series by Katherine Arden, which are The Bear and the Nightingale and The Girl in the Tower. Those were released both, I think, in 2017, and then the third one will be released this fall, I think, in 2018. Also, Deathless by Catherynne Valente, which was released in 2011, and then the Uprooted by Naomi Novak, which was released in 2015. That's the book that I read more when it had originally come out. And they all sort of have this background of Russian or Slavic folklore. They all have a sort of romance, although I will say, they all have a sort of romance, and a romance in a particularly interesting way, where the gentleman that the main character ends up having a romance with is sort of considered a, quote, bad guy. They all have a female character. For some reason feel that the Uprooted character is quite a bit younger than, say, next the Winter Night trilogy, and then the main character of the Deathless book, although it could be because I believe that Uprooted is more of a YA type book. I've seen Arden's book be described as YA, but they definitely can transcend YA. Whereas I feel that Valente's book is not as much considered YA. It is definitely a darker, grittier type book. However, I think it most closely follows history and has historical details in it, because it talks about the war, and it had a very hard-hitting true storyline of the main character going back and living in Russia during the revolution and basically starving to death, like eating paper to try to survive. So there are things that I just can't get out of my mind. But all three of them, so I think the two that compare the easiest are The Bear and the Nightingale and Deathless. They have the same characters even, particularly the main character, and then they have Death as Koshchei, and they have an Ivan type character, which is the Firebird or Phoenix character. I liked Deathless because it also had Baba Yaga in it. There is something on Goodreads for it in the number 2 book for Deathless. I haven't seen anywhere online when it's going to be released or if it's really going to happen anytime soon, but it's called Ivan and the Firebird, so it makes me wonder if she would follow something similar to what Arden did with the discussion for the second book being more about the Phoenix. So if I was going to tell you my preference as someone who is in her mid-30s, who enjoys Russian literature and folklore, I would say that actually my favorite books were the Katherine Arden books. I'm still very glad that I read the Catherynne Valente books, but they weren't as fantastical, so it might be because I enjoy fantasy a little bit more. Catherynne Valente's books are always whimsical in some ways as well, so even the true stories and historical information about the war is in the book. It still has a fantasy element to it, but as a overall novel, it was easier to digest. The Winter Night trilogy was just easier to digest. But I will say, if you liked the Winter Night trilogy, I think you would like the Valente book too. I would almost read Valente's first, then the Winter Night trilogy. And then Uprooted was also very enjoyable. I just considered it more YA. And really it is a different story, so I'm kind of lumping it in with two books that it doesn't belong to as much. It's still an interesting fairy tale-esque story. I just think the other ones hit home for me more because they're more established classic fairy tales, I guess. So those are my thoughts on the three books. Let me know if you've read any of these and what your thoughts are and what your preferences are. This is just my personal opinion, and I'm sure it's going to be different than many others. But it's an interesting comparison because there are a lot of similarities between them. So I thought I would just chat about it. I will talk to you later. Bye.